Aloha, everyone. So, we finally received a substantial update regarding the legislation that was introduced by Maui's mayor to phase out short term rentals that operate in apartment zoning here on the island. Now, just last week, I released a video sharing a few updates on the subject, and in that video, I expressed some disappointment that the mayor didn't give any updates on his proposed legislation in the State of the County address, other than a quick 15-second mention. Well, this week, he spoke for a full 10 minutes on the subject at a South Maui community meeting, and he did confirm that some of the rumors that I had mentioned in my previous videos are in fact true. In this video, I'll share a portion of the meeting where he speaks about the short-term rental phase-out plan, and if you care to hear my thoughts, I'll also share that after we hear what the mayor has to say.
Short-term rentals came up in some questions. So the questions that came to us was, where does the administration stand on short-term rentals, Kihei on the beach? Do we think that short-term rentals are too expensive for people on minimum wage? And doing away with short-term rentals in Kihei takes away from tourist dollars and TAT taxes and from local businesses. So I'm going to give the mic here to my boss, Mayor Bisson, who will help with that.
So this is one of the more controversial subjects in our community right now. And I can understand why no other administration before mine wanted to address this or handle this. So the simple fact of the matter is 50% of the housing available in South Maui are temporary vacation rentals. Now, I guess I'm going to make a policy decision, which may already be obvious, by my suggesting to the planning commissions and the county council that they address this. And the simple fact is, I think we should have more housing for local families. Now, not everybody agrees with that, and that's okay. Not everybody agrees with that. I am not suggesting that short-term rental conversions is the only way to get housing for local families. That's just one of the pieces, one of the parts. There are many, and I think I've heard just about every one of them, either in a text message, an email, a phone call, or when I'm trying to shop with my family. And that's okay. You know, when people come up to me and say, Mayor, I don't want to talk business, but can I ask you this one thing? And I always say, it's okay, because you don't know when you're going to run into me again. So this is a coincidence, a chance for you to tell me what you need to tell me. You know, as government, I say this a lot because it's true, we make group decisions that affect individual people. Let me say that one more time. We make a group decision that involves individual people. So some of you are impacted by this decision more than others. But I'm going to tell you what I said in the beginning. My belief is we need to create more housing for local families. And this became more evident after what happened in August of 2023. This wasn't a knee-jerk reaction to that, as we are being accused of. This was something that should have been done a long time ago. And again, I understand why nobody did it. It's because of what we're going through right now. It's dividing the community in some ways. And that was never the intention. But let me talk a little bit specifics. Maui has the largest concentration of TVRs in the state of Hawaii for the size of our population. We have 15,400 temporary vacation rentals. The Minatoya list, and I won't get into a long history because I know we have other questions. The Minatoya list involves 7,100 of those. Some of those are here in South Maui. Many of them are in West Maui. Some of those 7,100 units should not be converted to long-term. You heard me say that. Some of them should remain as hotels. What happened? So right now, for those of you who own a temporary vacation rental, if you're not in the apartment zone. You had to get a permit. You had to get permission from your neighbors. You had to advise them of what you were going to do. And you got maybe a 2 or 3 year permit to run your temporary vacation rental. If you did it legally, that's how most of them are done, right? Through a permit. The Minatoya list were temporary vacation rentals that were allowed in apartment districts, not zoned for this. Richard Minatoya was a deputy corporation counsel who at one time worked for me at the prosecutor's office. He became a corporation counsel. And under his advice, he made a determination to exempt these units, the 7,100 I'm talking about, rather than have them go through a legal battle, rather than having them go to court. So they made a decision at that time in that administration to exempt. An exemption can be taken away. It's not permanent. Some of those buildings, some of those units were built for workforce housing. If you've been on Maui long enough, you'll remember in the 70s and the 80s, when a hotel wanted to build their hotel, the way to get their permit, they had to build housing. You guys have some of those units in Kihei. They were intended for workforce housing, they were built for workforce housing, and they became short-term rentals. Because at some point, they were allowed to be sold to the open market. Over 80% of the temporary vacation rentals on Maui are owned by people who do not live on Maui. Over 80%. Now, what I want to say is we recognize that some of those units built in the apartment zone look like, act like, and behave as hotels, and they should be hotels, but they should be zoned as a hotel. They need to file with the Planning Commission and say we want our dwelling, our building, to be a hotel, and they should do that, and they should be granted that. But they shouldn't be considered apartments if they're acting as hotels. And they should be paying hotel rates as taxes, not apartment rates. But if your building that you own or you bought, and if your realtor didn't tell you what the Minatoya list exemption was when you bought it, if that was built to be a workforce housing, my goal is to convert those back to workforce housing. That's the simple answer. Now, because that's what they were intended for, and that's what our need is. By our calculation, there should be around 2,000 of those, not all 7,100. So we can have this fight, and we can decide what's right, what's best. But I've heard many, many comments. That's my retirement. It's too expensive for local people to live in them. Well, the reason it's too expensive is because it's being used as a short-term rental and not a long-term rental. There are many fees that come along with the short-term rental market that will not exist with a long-term rental. There are many buildings that are on this list. When you look at the people that make up the ownership of that building, there are still people who are owners from the original time that building was made. There are people who rent in that building as long-term, and then they're a mix of short-term. So when people say these places aren't intended for long-term, local people don't want to live here. Local people are already living in there. And long-term renters are already renting there. Now this question about whether local people should be allowed to live oceanfront? I got to watch what I say because my team always tells me don't say the first thing that comes to my mind. So I'm going to filter. I got to filter while I'm standing here. Yeah, I think local people should be allowed to live on the ocean too. I mean, I think that. Why not? I mean, I don't know. That was an odd question, and I think I'm understanding the question. I think what we got to do, though, everybody, seriously, is to sort through the 7,100 units. If you think you live in a unit that is more designed as a hotel, then please urge your board, urge your owners to seek a an amendment or proper zoning and have yourself zoned as a hotel. And then you won't have this problem. This will not be a problem. But if that building was built for workforce housing, then that's what I think it should be, because that's what we need. I don't know, how strange is it that we have more housing available for visitors than for the people who live here? I mean, we want visitors. Now, I think the third part of the question talks about, I don't know, TAT, and we're 12%. We're 12% of the population. We pay 26% of the TAT to the state of Hawaii. 26% of the TAT they get comes from Maui. So, we're running the numbers, and I can tell you, if this is going to impact our revenue, then we're going to address that revenue like every government does. Our hotels run at about 60% occupancy. 60% occupancy. I think we have enough rooms to accommodate visitors who come. And by the way, the argument that I'm just trying to help hotels, I don't know where that came from. I'm not trying to help anybody except local people staying here. Now, if it's a coincidence that it helps somebody, then it helps somebody, but that's not the intention. Nor is my intention to hurt any one of you. We can talk about retirements. We can talk about people's tomorrows, or we can talk about local people's todays. And that's where we're going.
Okay, so a few good things did come from this update. We finally hear the mayor admit in public that most of the Minnesota List properties look like and operate more like hotels than apartments, and that those properties should be allowed to continue to operate as short-term rentals. This is something that people like myself that have not been in favor of the legislation have been saying from the very beginning, and it is gratifying to finally hear it confirmed. That being said, I also don't think it's right to penalize the 2,000 properties that they think are more suitable for long-term living. Look, I think that everyone on Maui agrees that we absolutely need to prioritize affordable housing efforts for Maui's residents. But even though he says it's not his intention to harm anyone, there's no doubt that changing the short-term rental rules will absolutely cause harm to those property owners, even if it is 2,000 properties instead of 7,000. For some people, it would be devastating, leading to bankruptcy and wiping out their life's work. Look, the mayor himself said that there are other solutions to solving our affordable housing shortage. So instead of hurting the 2,000 property owners, we should be focusing on solutions that are not as destructive. Honestly, I personally don't think it matters where the people are from that own these properties. We're all humans. But if the argument is that we need to prioritize Maui's residents, by their own admission, 20% of these properties are owned by Maui residents. 20% of 2,000 is 400. Are we really going to throw 400 Maui residents under the bus when we have other solutions we can explore? Now, the mayor ended his talk by saying that we should focus on local people's today, not other people's retirement. Well, this is where I'd like to share a testimony from one of Maui's residents whose today would be devastated by this legislation. Let's take a look.
Aloha kakayaka, planning commissioners and fellow residents. I'm here today to strongly oppose this bill. My name is Susanna McIntosh, a proud resident of Maui and a single mother. I spent 7 years working on a ship away from my daughter, trying to build a life for both of us by saving up money to buy properties that are legal vacation rentals. This effort was meant to allow me to spend more time with my daughter while providing us with financial stability. Being a single mother, it is incredibly challenging to work regular 9-to-5 job while also managing school drop-offs, after school activities, and being there for my child physically and emotionally. Moreover, My cleaner is also a single mother supporting 4 kids. I pay my cleaner 5 to 10 times more per hour than most hotels pay their employees. This money stays on the island, supporting our local residents. One of my friends called me numerous times in tears, unsure of what to do. She purchased a legal vacation rental condo for almost $1 million with an interest rate of 9.375%. Yes, 9.375% with a 3-year prepayment penalty. That's almost $7,000 monthly mortgage. Now, that is not an affordable home for our local residents. If this bill will devastate families like Kim's, like my daughter and I, and many other residents that are here with us today. If you phase out short-term vacation rental, it could force me to file for bankruptcy, destroy the credit score I worked my entire life to build, and my daughter and I may never be able to buy another home again. We truly need true affordable homes for our local residents, not measures that will only increase the numbers of suffering residents. Therefore, I strongly oppose this bill. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
So there you have it. It's clear that this legislation will do significant harm directly to hundreds of Maui residents. And that's not even considering the significant damage it would do to our local economy. Look, I think there are a lot of other solid arguments against this idea to phase out short-term rentals, but the way I see it, the only argument that we need is that the government policies should not cause harm to its citizens, especially when there are other solutions for our affordable housing shortage that could be constructive instead of destructive. Anyways, that's the end of my rant. I'd love to hear what all of you think about the subject, so please share your thoughts in the comment section. Now, from a real estate perspective, this update doesn't change much compared to my thoughts on the Maui market that I shared in my last video. That is, if you want to buy a property on Maui, that you will definitely be allowed to continue to short-term rent regardless of the outcome of this legislation, simply buy a property that's already in hotel zoning. That being said, there are some really good deals on Minatoia list properties, with some of these properties selling for 20 to 25% less than they would have just a year ago. And now we know for sure that not all of these properties will lose their ability to short-term rent. So depending on your risk tolerance, this could be a unique buying opportunity. I'll share a link in the description to the hotel zone properties on Maui that I recommend to my clients, along with a separate link that includes all the properties for sale on Maui that currently allow short-term rentals, including the ones in apartment zoning. So you can see what kind of deals are out there for yourself. And I'll also share a link to a website that I use to calculate rental income potential for any property in Hawaii or on the mainland. Several of my investor clients are already using this tool, and all the feedback that I've received has been very positive. As always, don't hesitate to reach out to me directly if you're considering buying or selling real estate here on Maui or anywhere in the Hawaiian Islands. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more updates, as I'll do my best to keep everyone informed as this evolves. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I hope to see you on the next video. Aloha.